Rikers Island stories. Rikers Island Correctional Facility. The early 90s, late 80s. Whatever year you want to talk about, whatever year you want to hear about, on these platforms, a lot of people tell different stories. And it's okay. People were there at different times, different place, different building, right? But one thing that stood out to me, someone asked me a question. When you got there, your first time, Warpath, that you got to Rikers Island, your story, what was it like when you got there? Who was the people that you seen the most? Like, as far as I'm figuring he meant nationality, or even if he meant gangs. We're going to get into that today here on The Lockout and with a whole lot more. So, when I get to Rikers Island, the most people that I seen there, I've never seen, I'm talking about nowhere in my life, nowhere that I've been at before, that I see so many Puerto Ricans and blacks all in one place together. It was almost as if when I went in there, I said, wow, this is where all my people are at. This is where they put in all of us at. It was a sad sight to see. But still in all, you get lost on Rikers Island with the situation of the phone, your guys, the gang, whatever you doing at that moment, you gotta become that. Because when you try to be positive Pete, well, for me, it doesn't work out that way. I never wanted to be the one that was stepped on. I wanted to do the stepping. As weird and sad as it may sound. I recall first getting to Rikers Island, and the first thing I noticed was that people would just talk on the phone forever. So I wanted to talk on the phone forever too. Why I can't talk forever too? And that's where most of the problems lie at. For those guys that ask me, what bring the most problems on Rikers Island? Well, back then to me, the phones, the clothes, the jewelry. You was able to wear your own clothes. If you was able to hold down your jewelry, the police wouldn't take it from you. It's on you. Go ahead if you think you could rock. On the island, we had this saying, and it went like this. You don't rock like that. Facts. So there was a lot of people that didn't rock like that. Rikers Island at that time was sort of like a fashion show. Yeah, dudes would get fly to go to law library. Dudes would get fly dip to go to rec. On court day, you need to dress a little, not too crazy, because you might run into something. You might go shopping, and you might have to come up out of that and make an exchange. Like, these are yours now, and those are mine. As sad as it may seem to another individual who's never been in that environment, this is exactly what was going on the famous and infamous Rikers Island. I seen a lot of people get cut, hurt, and killed over the telephone. I became that same individual that I once detested, that I always told myself I didn't want to be like. I became that. Hogging up the phone, leaving the phone hanging there like, yo, you don't touch that. You feel me? Like leave it hang. Nobody's using it. We'll leave it hanging for hours. I guess to show the sign of empowerment. If it had to be done all over again, would I do that same exact thing? Sure. And I'm gonna break down to you why. A lot of houses that I started going into at those times and my peoples, talking about kings, I seen that the Latinos were not calling as much as other groups were calling. I seen that it was like almost like a bad thing to be Latino. So I said, nah, not while I'm here. I'm not gonna allow that. And I always lived my life like that. Although we love all people, I put this thing in my head. If you violate, you will get violated 5 times worse. If you touch one of mine, I'm touching 5 of yours. Everything I was gonna do from that point on consist in 5s. 1 for 5. So we was always up. In my head, we gotta stay up. It's so weird how the world works. Because the same beast that you once detest, you become that, and not noticing, you kind of sort of become the bully now. And you start making other people probably feel even oppressed. The same oppression that you once detested, disliked. It's a bad feeling. So I would never say I have any regrets of what happened. Maybe I could say like we could have took it a little more easier. But when you look at the situation a few years later, I don't think anything would have ever changed. Everybody would have still been the same. But I don't know if you understand that part, but I'm going to tell you this. What went on in those times while we was there, all that was needed. The little bit that you put in, the little bit that he put in, the little bit that he put in, the little bit that old Warpath put in, that everybody put in. It was needed. Believe me. If you was there at any point, you would feel the same way. And I'm pretty sure that other members of other groups feel that whatever they did was needed also. Everyone's story is different. One thing I can assure you is that the pain is the same. When it comes to one feeling like they gotta do something for their peoples, I remember dudes walking in, and if you was from another gang, you couldn't be there. You had to go. Even if you looked like if you was the ops. Just in case, like where you coming from? OBCC, you can't be here. And to other people, it may seem like an abuse. But you have to understand that these people were coming in and creating havoc, destruction among the house. Like if it wasn't done to him, you wasn't gonna eat breakfast tomorrow morning because that's what they were doing. Now, you and I know, let's not front. Keep it 100. People don't dare talk this talk, but it's real talk that needs to be put out there. The fact is that if you was in certain houses, like a blood house on Rikers Island, And the majority of the people in that house were blood. There was a point on Rikers Island, and I even seen that in 2000s. If they gave something good, you wasn't eating because the Bloods would take all the frosting flakes. And the only people that were getting frosting flakes is the ones that were holding weight in the house. I always got mines, but I cared if you got yours. So I was always like, nah, we not doing that. We not doing none of that. You got to nip that from the gate. But that is a reality of what went on. So sometimes with Rikers Island stories, I stay, like, are you serious? When people just tell bits and pieces, and yeah, I get upset at times, I ain't gonna lie, and paint themselves out to look like they came in to save people, like all their peoples. When I'm like, this is crazy. Like, you guys were the biggest oppressors of your own people. Right? And I think for the most part that people don't dare talk is because you shook. Somewhere in you, there's like a coward feeling, and you scared that when you go outside, there may be retaliation from a gang or from somebody that was there those years and be like, yo, that's not facts, right? And take a video like so harsh where they want to, start a problem today, but I don't have those problems. Thank God that's not how I live my life, fearing another man or another gang. With that being said, up till today, the biggest oppressor of gangs, or the ones that were trying to do the most oppressing on the island, has always been the Bloods. So when people say, yo, we was being oppressed by kings, it makes me laugh so hard because I'm like, nah, you can't be serious, bro. I'm not gonna front. At one point, we was beating firecrackers out of them. Like, you couldn't come in. Like, that's it. But of course, it's gonna look like oppression. You was already labeled like, yo, they steal. They sneak thief. They want to take people's sneakers. So every time we encountered one of them, it was a problem. So we just don't let them in no more. That's it. It's a wrap. Up to years went by, and you started seeing like more Hispanics getting involved in different gangs. Yo, this one is cool. He's from around my way. Let him live. This one is cool. He gets drugs. Let him in. And the drugs messed up everything on Rikers Island on both ends. I believe that at a point where the Kings was there and the Netas, it bring, whether you seen it then, I'm pretty sure if you go to the island now, you're probably going to be one of those that wish that it was still like back in the days and the Netas and the Kings were united and everything was going down. Or you're probably going to be looking around and hoping like, damn, won't the Patrias and the Kings get together and get rid of these dudes, right? Because you're going to go through hell. I could guarantee you that. Nobody's going to tell you that. So to put it blank, stay away from crime. Because when you go to Rikers Island, you're going to have a hard time. And another thing that I love is when a dude feels that because he's of that gang, that you're safe. I'm going to tell you the truth. Somebody else is going to lie to you. This is on the lockout. The most people that have the most problems is a blood when he gets to the island with the other bloods. So put your seatbelt on and tighten up, homie, pang. Because it's not me that you need to worry about when you get there. I might save your life. It's always our own people. These are facts that dudes don't talk about because they shook. I never had those problems. Respectfully. There was a point on Rikers Island when you locked in around 10:45, 11 o'clock, if I got the time right. And one of my dudes calls me to the gate and he's like, yo, I need a thing. I'm like, what's going on? He's from my neighborhood. He's like, they trying to make us lock in early. I'm like, the police? No, the Bloods. I'm like, yo, you better not lock in. He's like, hell no, they could never. They got to kill me. But they making dudes lock in, calling it blood hour. So if you've been around, you remember the blood hour. But this is how I look at it. Nobody talks about this. This is something that really happened. One thing you're going to learn about me is that I tell fact stories. We don't tell friction. Yeah, that's a genre around here. Yeah, facts. Just look. Friction. So anyway, they was trying to make people lock in. That couldn't happen in no house I was in, number one. I would not allow that. And my peoples, I will make sure that I implant that that's not happening nowhere around me. But it was across from us. And I'm going to tell you how the COs are sneaky and how the administration uses gangs against gangs and the self-destruction of the people as a whole, filtered down by our very own people to do the filthy work of the higher-up superiors of the masses. So Rikers Island, they want to change the lockdown time so dudes could lock in earlier than what we would normally lock in. So it'll be hard to lock down a whole facility or several facilities and tell inmates, you locking in an hour earlier from now on. The clock has changed. Gang. People are going to go up in an uproar. Riots may break out. Fights, cuttings, a whole lot of things. This is my observation, what I think happened here. If I'm not mistaken, today, what time they lock in on Rikers Island? What time do the lights go out? Somebody leave it in the comment section. Well, I'm going to tell you what they was trying to do. Instead of 10:45, 11 o'clock, right, for the count, whatever, the tour changes, right, 11 to 7, right, whatever it is, if I remember right. They try to make it earlier, like a 9:30 situation. Or 10 o'clock, I think it was. Bottom line, an hour earlier. So they used the Bloods that were there in that house and said, we only want you guys out. This is what my take on it and what I think started happening. I could be wrong, but you tell me if you see it the same way I do. When my guy told me one time, nah, in that building, we locking down around 10 o'clock or an hour earlier from the normal time that it was before. I was like, what? I remember when they used to lock it down an hour earlier for blood hour in certain houses. He's like, yeah, that's how it started. What? So you mean to tell me you used those Bloods that were there to think that they was locking people down so they could be the only ones out and give them like the authority, yes, blood hour. It sounds cool and all that. But I peep it. It makes sense. When it came down to like, now you guys got to lock in. They only had to worry about a few people. You understand? They wasn't locking down hundreds of people. It was like 6 people in this house, 10 people in that house. That's easier to control. Then everybody got to lock in. You get where I'm getting at? So that's the way I took it. Like, oh, wow, they did all this to control just a handful of people to get them to lock in earlier so the time could change throughout the whole Rikers Island little by little in a smooth fashion. And that's when I always knew they didn't care, but I said, these people really do not give 2 fucks about us. And I think that was one of my also turning points that I said, I need to stop coming to jail. So today I play all those things in my head and they help me stay free. But I never regret anything that happened while I was on the island. I think it was all needed. I think that today a lot of Hispanics use the phone thanks to us, to the little bit that I did, that you did, that your next door neighbor did, this guy did, everyone that's been through there. Because there was a point in time where you wasn't watching TV in Spanish in Rikers Island. You wasn't using the phone in Rikers Island. You wasn't even coming out your cell on the lockout when they screamed out on the lockout. And if I'm lying, leave it in the comments. But we're going to touch on this subject a little more tomorrow morning. Thank you for tuning in to On The Lockout. Right now, it's Warpath Hour. What a transition. It's awesome. Try it.